All right. So in our previous session, we have started creation of framework, and as part of this, we have completed a few steps. We have created a PyTest project, and we have created Python project, and we have applied all the packages. Then we created folder structure, and after that, in the previous session, I have shown you how to automate a very basic test case, which is login test case, and also we have taken screenshots on failures. So till step 4 we have completed. Now let us continue the rest of the steps. So the next step is read common values from ini file. So let us understand what exactly it is. Reading common values from ini file. If I just go to our test case, and this is my test login, and if I just notice in your test case, there are common variables are there, like basic base URL, username, password, right? So these variables are common for every test case. So in automation framework, so whichever is common, like it can be method or variables, we need to create a separate file and where we will keep all the common data. And every test case will use same data. So here, base URL, username and password. So these details are common for every test case. So we need to create a separate file where we can keep all this common data. And later, all the test cases will use the same file to read the data. So most of the times we should not hard code any data in our test cases. So the problem is, suppose tomorrow if these values are changes or these values have changed, and you need to go and every test case and modify this data and wherever you have used this data. So instead of doing this, we can create only one file, one separate file where we can keep all this data. And if there are any changes, you can just modify only one file. So automatically that will affect in all the test cases. So that is a concept here. Read common values from ini file. So what is ini file means? Initialization file. So which is basically a config file where we will keep all the common data. So how to do this? Add config.ini file in configuration folder, because this is a configuration file. So we need to keep inside the configuration folder. And this is not the test data. Okay, so test data is different. So we are using this data not for testing. So we need this data as a prerequisite. So for every test case. So test data, we need to create under test data folder. So especially when you perform the data driven testing, we need test data, but this is not for test data. Okay. So now if I go back, config.ini file, we need to create under configuration folder. And to read the data from this config.ini, we need to create some utility class or utility file we have to create. That is read properties.py. And this particular file will actually read the data from config.ini and provide the same data to the test case, and which is utility file. So it will be like this. Let me just draw a small picture. So this is my test case, and here I have a ini file, and which contains all the data. So we cannot read this ini data directly into test case. So we need to create one utility file between this, and this utility file will read the data from ini and provide the data to the test case. Okay, so this is exactly process. So test case we already created. Now we need to create ini file, and then we need to create one utility file. So why we need to do this? Because of reusability. So suppose tomorrow if I add another test case like this, and we can get the same data here also. Again, the same file will give you the data from the ini file. So same utility file, same configuration file will be there, which will be used by all the test cases. So this is a reusability feature. Right. So now we'll see how we can create a ini file and read properties.py. And config.ini we need to create inside the configuration folder. Now go back to PyChamp, and here we have a configurations folder. Inside this, I'm creating new ini file. So how to create an ini file? Click on the new file, and here I will just say, so name of the file is config.ini. config.ini. So this is not Python file. So this is just ini file. Click on OK. So now I created config.ini file. So once you created config.ini file, so here we need to keep all the data. So whatever data we are created in the test case, the same data I'm copying from here and then put it here. and don't give any spaces. So here we don't follow any Python syntaxes because this is a INI file. So this is not Python file. And we don't need to use any double quotations or single quotations because we don't follow any rules here. Just like a notepad or text file. And don't keep any double quotations or single quotations or anything. Just specify the variable name and value, variable name and value. So in future, you can also add more number of variables which are required for multiple test cases. Now, once you specify these data and the first line, specify what kind of data it is. Let me just create one thing called, I'll say common info or common data. So whatever you want, you can just give some name because this is representing the category. So some category, or you can also write one more category if you want like this. And inside this category, you can have multiple variables like this. So you can have any number of categories, and these variables we can refer by providing the name of the category. Okay, so common info or details, whatever you can just specify some name there. And all these variables are comes under one group, common info. Now, so we need to use this data in our test case. And we cannot directly use this data in our test case. So we need to create one more utility class. So utility file we have to create. And that utility file should be part of utilities package. Now let me just create a new, and this is again Python file. And here I will name it as read properties Python file. So now I created read properties.py according to my document. So read properties.py, which is a utility file, and under utilities package, which will read the common data. Okay. So how we can implement this? How to read the common data from INI file? So to read the data from INI file, so we need to write some piece of code. So let me show you how we can do this. The first step is, in Python, we have a special package called config parser. So we need to import. So import, this is a special case, guys. We haven't discussed this earlier, and this is something new for you. So import config parser. So we need to first import config parser. So this is already there in Python as a default. So we don't need to install any special package for this. So first we need to import config parser. So inside this config parser, there is a method called raw config parser. And what this method will do is, we need to just create one object for this. Let's say config equal to. So config parser is my package. Inside this, there is a class called raw config parser. And for this class, I'm creating one object called config. And this particular object is having some methods. By using those methods, we can read the data from INI file. Now, once you created this object config, now I'm loading that file. So I'll say config dot read. So this is the method we need to use to read the INI file. So config dot read, and here we need to specify the location of config dot INI. So what is the location here is, let's get the location of config dot INI. So we created that under configurations. So right click here, copy relative path and paste it over here. So under configurations, config.ini file is present, and where exactly configurations folder present? Inside our current project directory. So here I'll say // which is representing our current project directory. And inside this configurations folder, and inside the configurations folder, we have a config.ini. So put everything in the single quotation or double quotation like this. Okay, so now we have created an object for raw config parser, which is a predefined class in config parser package. And by using that object, I'm accessing read method, and which will read the config.ini. Now, how we can get the values? So this statement is read config.ini, fine. But in the config.ini, we have a base URL, username and password. So I want to get this data. So how we can get it? So for that, we need to write one class here, class read config class read config, and here colon, and inside this, and this is just a Python utility file, read config, and here I'll say this is not PyTest case. Okay, this is just a Python class. So here I'll create three static methods. So I'll tell you what is static method here. So first let us create one method. So for every variable we need to create one method. It's like a page object class. So here in ini file we have a three variables, right? So three data. So for every variable we need to create one function or one method in the class. So the first method is def get application URL. Get application URL, and inside this, and this is just a Python class, so we no need to specify self and all, you can leave it, no problem. So get application URL, and inside this I need to get the value from config.ini. So what I can do is I can just open this in another window. All right, so I can just minimize this. Fine. So now I can just read this data here. So def application URL, and inside this I want to get this base URL. So for that what I have to do is, we already created config object here. So config dot get off, config dot get off, and here we need to pass two arguments, and this variable is present inside the common info, right? So that we have to specify as a first argument in the single quotation, comma, the property value, this is base URL, so that we have to specify. Now from this common info, this will extract the value of base URL, and then we have to save that in a variable. So here I'm creating one variable called URL equal to, so config.get common info base URL. So this is a particular method will get the value from common.info base URL, and I want to access this method directly by using class name. So what I can do is remove the self and make this method as a static method. So how we can make it a static method? At the rate static method, I need to specify this annotation. So when I say static method, this particular method I can directly access using class name without creating any object. And in the class, these brackets are optional, not required. So now, so in this class, this is a static method. So I can access this method directly by using class name without creating an object. So this method will get the data from the base URL. So from the actual test case, we need to just call this method, then we will get the value. So similarly, I will also implement other methods, because we have two more variables, username and password. So here I will write two more static methods. So the second one is get user email, and again config.get. I think two brackets are not required. One is enough. So config.get from the common info user email. So here we have specified user name, right? So copy this, and or else you can just change here. You can put here user email, base URL, user email and password. So now user email I'm capturing here, and from common info, and which will return the username. And as soon as we got the URL, so I'm just returning the URL also here, return URL, because this method we need to call from the test case. And whenever I call this method, which will return the URL for us, and from where it will get the URL? From the ini file, right? So get email, get user email, and get password. So again, same config.get from the config.get from the common info, I'm getting the password, and save the password here and return the password. So this is how we need to create a utility file to read the ini file, data from the ini file. Okay, that's the first step we have to do. So step one, we have to create a config.ini which contains the common data, and the second step we need to create a read properties.py, which is basically utility file which will get the data from the ini and provide the same data to the test case. Now in the test case we have to call these three methods. Okay, so in the test case we have to call these methods. Now let's see how we can call these methods. So that's the next step. go and open our test case and test login. I can close config.ini. Now observe this. So this is my test case we have created earlier. And inside the test case, here we have hard-coded the data. Now this time what we have to do is, we have to just call the method get application URL method from the read config. Right, so how we can call it? So simply we can say here we need to import that class, because here this particular module read properties.py is present in utilities package. Our test case is present on test cases package. So both are different packages. So if you want to access these methods from read properties.py, we have to import that one module inside our test case class. So let us do that. So from utilities package dot read properties module, from there we need to import read config class. So where it is present inside the read properties module, and read properties module is present inside the utilities package. So this is the package name, module name, class name. And by using this class name, I can directly access these methods because they are static methods. Static methods means we can access those methods directly without creating any object. Now, instead of hard coding this base URL here, what I will do is use this class read config dot, see this, all methods are populating here. Get password, get user email, get application. So here we need get application URL. And this method we already implemented here. You can see this. This is a get application URL. So what this method will do is this will return the URL. It will read the URL from the ini file, and then it will return this URL to us. And whatever URL is which is returned will be stored inside this base URL. So now we have removed hard-coded data. And same thing for username. Again, use the same class read config. For every test case we do like this. Read config dot get password. And sorry, this is username. Read config dot get user email. And here again, read config dot get password. So now this become dynamic. So in the test case, we haven't hard coded anything. Just we are getting this user URL, user email, password from the, we are asking these data from the utility file, and utility file will get the data from the ini file. So this is actual communication. Okay, so this is improving the reusability. And tomorrow you can also write the same thing in the another test case. So same utility file method we need to call in every test case. So now we have removed the hard-coded data, and we can make these variables are dynamic. So if you want to add more variables in future, you can also add them into ini file. And here you can add more number of data in future for other test cases. And as soon as you have added more number of variables here, you need to also add corresponding methods in the utility file. And here for 3 variables, I have created 3 methods. Similarly, if you want to add more variables, you need to create more number of methods. So it will keep on increasing till we complete the framework. So this is a concept of reading data from ini file, reading common values from ini file. So created config.ini in configurations, created one utility file, read properties.py under utilities package. Then we replaced hard-coded values in the login test case. So this is how we need to read the common values from ini file. Step 5. And then the next step is adding logs to your test case. So till we have not completed our test case, we are doing enhancements. The basic test case is completed, but on top of it, we are doing some enhancements. Okay. So the same test case, then we need to add logs to your test case. So we have discussed about logs, different levels of logs. So for every test case, we need to implement logs. So warning logs, debug logs, info logs, all these things. So let us see how we can implement logs to our test case. And as I said earlier, all these steps are one-time job. Okay, once you completed the entire framework for one test case, and rest of the test cases we can easily automate. All right, so logs, adding logs to test case. How to add logs to test case? So here we need to create one more utility file called customlogger.py, and in the login test case we need to add log messages, and before that we need to write customlogger.py, that is utility file. Now let me show you how we can create customlogger.py. Just a moment. Okay, so under utility file we need to create customlogger.py, and then we need to modify the test case also. Okay, so now let's go and create a customlogger.py. So where we have to create this? Under adding logs to test case, right? Under utilities package we have to create. So customlogger.py. So let's do that. Go to PyCharm and go to utilities. Here I'm creating new Python file. I will name it as custom logger. Right? So custom logger, and this is a Python file. So in this custom logger, we need to write a small piece of code which will generate the log file. Okay, so log entries we can generate in the test case itself, but the log file creation and format of the log file, so all these things we need to specify in one place. So for that we need to create this utility file. And when you're generating the logs and when you're creating the logs, we need one package called import logging. This is again a predefined package which is there in Python itself. Import logging, and here I'll create one class called log generation, and inside this I will write some configuration like loading the log file, like everything. So here we use a logging package. I'll say logging dot, we have a method called basic log, called basic config, and we already discussed this concept in our previous sessions in PyTest. I have shown you same thing, logging dot basic config, and here we have to specify where exactly we need to generate the log file. So the first parameter will be where exactly we need to generate the log file. So the configuration part we need to specify. So I'll say file name equal to, in the double quotation I'll say, and here we already created logs folder, right? So inside this I'm going to create a log file. So here dot slash representing current project directory. Inside this I have a logs folder. So here I'll say logs folder, and inside this logs, my log file name is, I'm giving some name called automation.log. So this is my log file name. And apart from this, we need to also give some time format in the log file. So let me just add some time format. And these utility files are common for every test case, so that you can use same thing for every project. So here I'm just giving some format, comma, and the next line or same line. Format equal to ask time, and level name, messages, date format. This is a predefined value, and you can just add this. And then I'm closing here. Done. So file name and then format. So these two things we need to pass under logging.baseConfig. And then we need to create one object for logging. So how to create here is, I'll say logging dot get logger and get logger. So this will return one object that we need to save in logger object. So logger is a simple variable, and we need to set the level also, log level. So how to set logger dot set level, and I'll set level is info. So how to set logging dot info. So this is a info, warning, and debug. So you can see different levels of log. So you can say login dot info for now. And debug means it will give you detailed information. And finally, it should return logger. And whatever the logger is written, this logger we need to use in our test cases. And all these steps we need to include in a method, because inside the class we need to create a method. I create def loggen, so log generation, and I will also make this method as a static method so that I can directly call without creating any object. So in this case, we don't need self keyword here. And then these steps will comes under loggen like this. Right, so this is utility file we created, which will do the logger configuration to generate the log file for our test cases. And for every test case, we don't do all these things. Okay, custom logger, read properties, these things are common. Only one time we have to do for every test case. For every test case, we don't do multiple times. Okay, this is one time job. So we created one configure utility file which will generate the logs. Now whenever I call this loggen method, and which will return some logger object, and by using this logger object we need to generate the logs. Now go back to your test case, and whatever actions I have done in the test case, everything I will log into the test case. Every event or every action I will log into the log file. So what I can do here is, if I just go above, and first we need to import that module, because here custom logger is present inside the utilities package, but our test case is present under the test cases package. So both are different packages. So if you want to access this custom logger from the utilities, we need to import that package. So here I'm importing from utilities dot read property custom logger. So utilities is my package, custom logger is my module. From that, what is the class name? Loggen is my class name. So we have imported. So from this, loggen is my class name. So by using this class name, I can directly access loggen method. So here come down, and every statement we can log into the log file. Okay, so now here internally in our test case also we need to create one more variable called as a logger. And because, so here we have a loggen is a class. Inside this we have a method called loggen. So this method we need to call from this class. So, and once you call this method, this will return a logger object. So that we need to store in a variable. And in our test case, I'll create one logger variable. And from this loggen class, I'm calling loggen method. Okay. And what this will return? This will return a logger object. So from the loggen class, inside this, there is a loggen method. If I just go to custom logger, you can see that loggen is my class. Inside this loggen small, it is a method. And I can call this method directly from the class itself, because this is static method. So static method we can directly call by using class name. But when I call this method, this will return some logger object. And that logger I'm saving inside this variable. So here I'm creating one more variable called logger variable. And whatever it is returning logger, I'm saving in that logger. Now this logger I need to use to send the messages to the log file. And as a first step, whenever you start your test case, and here I will specify that. So how we can access this logger variable? Because this is a class level we created. So self.logger and .info, and here I'll try to send all the messages. So I can, first step always should be the test case ID. Okay, so first step is always should be the test case ID, because the same ID will be displayed in the log file, and then you can add whatever you want. So here self.logger.info, and here I'll say started, or we can simply say verifying home page title, verify home page title. And similarly I can write more number of messages. So here, if the title is this one, I'm making my pass and closing my driver. So after that, what you can do is, here I can write a simple message, self.logger.info, and here home page title test is passed. Home page title test is passed. And the same message you can write here also. So home-based title test is failed because the else block will execute only on failures. And after that, we can also write here. So login. So here I can write one more method. So here I can say login test is started. Or we can say verifying login test. Verifying the login test. And here also I can write. So if it is actual title is true, then I can say this is to driver.close, right? So before that I'm writing something here. So self.logger.info, and here I can say login test is passed. So every event or every action or step we can log into the log file. So login test is passed. And copy this message, and then I'll keep that message here also. So login test is failed. So failure message means instead of info, I'll say warning or error. So we can also log error here. I think this is small. Okay, so because we need to send some error to the log if it is failed. And even in here also, instead of info, I can send warn or error, anything is fine. So error, right? So this is how we need to generate the logs for our test case. So whenever you are writing the new test case also, we need to include all the logs like this. So what are the steps we have followed here? First, we have created one custom logger utility file. And in this, we have created log gen method, which is static method. And we have done logger configuration, and we return the logger. And then come to the test case. In the test case, we have created, we have called the class. We have called that method from this class and save that into logger. And after that, here, by using this logger, I have put all the statement. I sent all the statements to the log file. So that's it. So now when I run the test case, it will generate the log file. Now let us run our test case. So how to run our test case? Go to your terminal. And here, PyTest -v-s, and get the location of test logging. Copy relative path and then paste it over here. No. So let's copy once again. Just a moment. PyTest -s-v and get relative path. Right. So this is a relative path. Now execute. So we can see log files in the logs folder. So it will create a new file here. You can see automation log is generated. Now entries will be added later. So once the test case is completed, then we can see all the entries. Now first test case got passed. And the second test is also executing from the same test case. Okay, done. So now we'll see the logs, how it is generated, and refresh your logs, synchronize, then click on automation.log. So now we can see what are all messages we have created inside our test case. It is printed everything, including the date, time, and the log level. So this is log level. Suppose if any test case got failed, this will give you error, and error will be displayed here. And these are the statements, same statements we have mentioned in our test case. Right. So for all the test cases, we will maintain only one automation log. So you can have any number of test cases, but all the logs will be generated in one log file itself. But how we will recognize what are the statements or belongs to that particular test case? So we have logged the test case ID at the first step, right? So by seeing the test case ID, then we can easily recognize these statements are belongs to this particular test case. And tomorrow if I add one more test case, and those test case logs also will be part of the same file. So in that case, we can recognize them easily by seeing the test case name. Right. So this is how we need to generate the logs for our test case. The next step. So we have added logging mechanism into our framework. Now let's move on to the next step. And now, so the next is run the test on desired browser or cross browser or parallel testing. So this is another important thing which we need to do in your framework. So here run the desired browser. So suppose currently my test case is running by default on Chrome browser. So why it is? Because if I just go and see the confidence.py, we have just created Chrome browser here. So it will return the driver as a Chrome. So our test cases are running only on Chrome browsers as of now. So how we can run our test cases on different browsers parallelly? So you can also add parallelly, right? So for that, what you have to do is you need to write some piece of code. So I have already shown you in the PyTest classes how we can pass the arguments through command line. So if I pass the browser name through command line at the runtime, obviously this our fixture contest will take that parameter and decide which browser we need to launch. So that we need to implement here. So the first step, we need to update conf.py. So why? Because the browser is decided by setup method. So here we need to add that piece of code. So update conf.py, contest.py with the required fixtures, which will accept the command line argument. That is a browser name. Command argument is browser name. And then pass browser name as an argument in the command line. And after, these are the commands argument. So when I run our test case, I need to pass the browser name like this as a parameter. Then my test case should execute on particular browser. Okay. So then I need to do some changes in the confidence.py, not the test case. Test case still same. We no need to modify the test case. And who is responsible for launching my browser? Confidence.py. So there we need to change some configuration. Now we'll see how we can take this argument through command prompt. So go back to confidence.py, and here we need to modify something. Next one, run tests on desired browser. So let's modify the conf test. So here, so observe one thing. Let's keep setup method as it is. So we need to write two additional methods inside this conf.py, which will get the browser from the command prompt. Okay. So here I'm creating one method, PyTest adoption. So we already seen this in PyTest classes. Same thing is repeating again here. So PyTest adoption, parser, and we need to also import PyTest here. So PyTest adoption is a method parser, and parser.adoption of -- browser. So what this method will do, this will get the value from CLI. We can call it as a hook. And from the command line, whatever the browser name we are passing, which will get it. And once you get it into this variable, we have to pass that browser name to the setup method, because setup method will decide which browser we launch. And to do this, we need to create one more fixture here. PyTest fixture we have to create. Inside this PyTest fixture we have to create. So PyTest.fixture, and the fixture name is browser, and whatever the browser name we have passed through command prompt, so this particular adoption method will get it. After getting the browser name into this variable, and this particular method will send the same variable value to the setup method. So it will return request.config.get option browser. So this will return the browser value to the setup method. Now the same value we need to receive here in the setup method. So I'll create one variable called browser. So the not here in the setup method. So here I'll say browser. Now whatever this fixture is written the browser name, the fixture method setup method will get that value. Now here I'll write conditional statement. So what is the conditional statement? If browser equal to Chrome, if the browser value equal to Chrome, right, and colon, and then do these steps. Driver equal to webdriver.chrome, and after that don't return any value for now, because we need to verify other browsers. Else if browser equal to Firefox, and if it is a Firefox, and then here I'll say driver equal to webdriver.firefox. Here driver equal to webdriver.firefox. I'll say Firefox. Okay, done. And currently I have mentioned only 2 browsers. So later you can add more number of browsers. So if the browser name is Chrome, it will launch my Chrome browser. If the browser name is Firefox, then it will launch my Firefox. So it will just initiate the driver into these variables. But at the end, we have to return the driver. So this statement still be there, return driver. If the browser is in Chrome, it will initiate the Chrome browser into driver. Else if the browser is Firefox, then initiate the Firefox driver in the driver, then we are returning the driver. So same setup method earlier, but this time based upon the argument we passed, setup method will launch particular browser and all the test cases will execute on the specific browser. Okay, so if I want to write which browser it is launching, I can just print some message also. Let's say print, I'll say launching Chrome browser. Just for understanding purpose, I have written this message. And here launching Firefox browser. Okay, so this is how we need to implement. So now we can run our test case on desired browser. So let's try that. So we need to pass a command line argument now. So we cannot directly run our test case. Now go to the terminal. So what is the command we have executed? PyTest hyphen name of the test case, copy relative path, and so we need to pass -v -s and here paste over here, and then we need to pass the additional argument. So that is -hyphen browser Chrome or -hyphen browser Firefox. So -hyphen browser is Chrome. So now execute. So this will launch my Chrome browser. So it is launched in my Chrome browser. Yes, it is passed. Done. So now my test case got executed on the Chrome browser. Every time it is launching my Chrome browser. Now let us write the same command by using Firefox. Execute. So this time it is launching my Firefox browser. So first item is done. Now it is the second item. Let it execute, just a moment. Okay, so now my test case got executed on the Firefox browser. Suppose sometimes if I don't pass any browser by mistake, okay, now I haven't passed, then it will give an error. See this? So we need to also handle this error because in the setup method we mentioned only Chrome or Firefox. We must pass at least one browser, but we need to also write some default browser. If I don't pass any browser, our test case should not fail. So for that, what I have to do is we need to write one else part. Okay, so else, and keep the driver is Internet Explorer. So I'll say driver dot webdriver ie. Sorry, else same command, instead of Chrome I'll say ie. So now this is become the default browser. So even though if you don't pass any browser, by default it will take Internet Explorer. So you must specify some default browser. Now it is executing on my Internet Explorer browser. All right, so now it is done. So this is how we need to run our test cases on desired browser. So what we have done here is in the PyTest conf.pytest, we have created some additional fixtures which will accept the browser name as an argument. And then we have passed the browser name in the command line argument. So as a command, as part of the command. So run the test on desired browser we have done. So how we can run them parallelly? So if you want to run them parallelly, we need to just specify like this. So to run the parallel, we need to add one plugin, I guess. Let me just cross check. So install in the beginning, we have installed one package to run our parallel test. So PyTest xdist. So this package we already installed at the beginning, right? So that package will make our test cases parallel. So to do this, we have to pass one more argument. If you just come down here. So to make run the test cases parallel, you just add number of workers. So -n equal to 3. If you have a multiple test cases, you can say multiple number, max 3. Okay, so don't give more than 3 because it will be very, very slower. So if I add this parameter, then our test case will become parallel. So let's do that. So I'm just running the same command, go to the terminal and I'll say pytest -s -v, go to test -login, copy relative path, paste it over here, -browser. I'm passing browser as a Chrome. So now these two tests in my login test, I have two test methods. One is home page title, the other one is login. So I want to execute them parallelly. So for that, we need to say -n equal to how many methods you have in your test. You can specify that number. So currently I have only 2. So I can say here itself, we have to say -n equal to 2. Okay, now I execute. So this will make my test case execution parallel. See this, it is launched only 2 browsers at the same time. So this is a Chrome browser 1, Chrome browser 2. So for both the two test methods, it is launched 2 different browsers. So one is for home page title test, that is done. Now second is for login is going on. So both will execute only one time. If you have more number of test cases, you will see a lot of difference. Okay, so this is how we need to achieve the parallel execution. So this is also done. And now finally we'll see how to generate the PyTest HTML report for our test cases. And if you have done till here, almost 70% of the framework is done. Okay, and now we'll see finally how to generate the HTML report. So to generate the HTML report, at the beginning we already installed one package called PyTest, not this one. I think PyTest HTML. So this is a plugin which I have installed, extension. So we can directly generate the HTML report. So for that, what you have to do is we need to update conf.py with PyTest hooks. So we need to add some hooks in the conf.test.py to generate the HTML reports. So we also discussed this in previous sessions. So same thing again, it is repeating. And now we'll see how we can update conf.test.py to generate the reports. So let's go to conf.test.py because report is also common for every test case. So the common things we need to put in the conf.test.py. So here we need to modify something to generate the HTML report. PyTest HTML report. So here I will write some piece of code which will generate HTML report. Let me just put some comment here. I'll say PyTest HTML report. To generate PyTest HTML report, we need to write this piece of code in the conf.test.py. So let me just write those methods and then I'll show you what exactly it is. So these are the hooks. So the first one is a hook for adding environment in the HTML report. So PyTest config, and here we are adding some environment to the report. So our project name is NOP Commerce. Our module name is customers and tester. So we can add customized information to the report. So this information will be populated in the report. And suppose there are some default options will be displayed on the report. So, but we don't need that. So this particular hook we can use to remove that information. So it is a hook for delete or modify environment info on HTML report. So here metadata.pop Java home I don't need, so I can just make it as a none. Plugins I don't need, I can make it as a none. So these details by default will display in the PyTest report, but I don't want to display this, which we don't need for our project. So I can just remove them. And these details will add in additionally into your report. So these are the two additional methods which we need to create for PyTest HTML report. So these are customizable. You can add more number of details here. You can remove other details also by adding these commands. Now save it. So then we need to generate the PyTest report. So to generate the PyTest report, we have to add additional parameter inside our command prompt. --HTML, and we need to provide the path where we want to generate the report. So this particular parameter will generate our report. So now I'll give the complete command, copy this and go to terminal, and I'm pasting over here. So let me just try to understand this, the whole command. PyTest -s -v is a common. So -n equal to 3. So this will make my test case parallel. Currently I have 2 tests, I can make it as 2. So -n equal to 2, which will make my test cases parallel. And this parameter till here. So -HTML equal to reports/report.html. So already we have created reports folder. So you can see that inside the report folder, report will be generated with this name. Report.html is the name of the report. So this parameter is representing the report and the test case location, and on which browser we are going to execute our test case is saying -- browser Chrome. So these are all different parameters which we need to run. So now it will generate the report for our project. Now let us enter. Now parallel testing will happen because we have specified -n parameter. So done. Now it is another test case. Okay, so it is executed. So now we'll see whether report is generated or not. So now go to the report folder. So refresh your reports folder, just synchronize. Then you can see one report here as a report.html. So open this report, right click. You can say open in browser. You can use any one of the browser. You can just open the Chrome. Yes, so now it is generated one report. You can see this report.html, and date and time is also given. And this is the customized information we pass here: platform, project name, Python name, tester name. And currently we have 2 tests we have created in the module. So you can click on the show details. It will clearly show you all the steps, including logs. See this? All the logs are captured. And if there are any failures, the failure message also will be given here. Why it is failing, what it is failing. So all the statuses will be displayed here. Okay, this is a PyTest report for our test cases. And if you have huge number of test cases, it looks good. Okay, so with this we have generated HTML report. So for one test case, we have done all these things. So for the second test case, we don't need to do all these things because we already done this. This is all only one-time job. So all these things we have to do only one time. So from the second test case, it will be very, very simple. All right. So now we'll see how to automate data-driven test case. So for all these things we have seen for one test case, which is login test case. But how we can automate data-driven test cases? So we'll see how we can automate data-driven tests. So same login test, I will make it as a data-driven test case. I will create one more test case. So we can test login with multiple sets of data, right? So now we'll see how we can add a data-driven test case into our project. So let's go to the next step. So automating data-driven test case. So for that, we need to first have test data file. So prepare test data in Excel sheet, place the Excel file inside the test data folder. So this is the first prerequisite. So we need to have test data in the Excel file, and that Excel file should be placed in the test data folder. Now the second step is we need to create utility file, and we also seen this in previous sessions. Excel utils.py file we have to create, and this is contains the common methods which will interact with the Excel file, and which should be created under utilities package, and then we need to create a login data driven test case under test cases. Then we can run the test case. Now I'll show you very simple. So first we need to prepare the test data file, and so I already have some test data. I'll say login data.xls. Let me open this. So here, this is my test data file. So I have some usernames, and also I have some password, and also I have some expected. So let me just get another file. Just hold on. Just a second. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to get an actual file. All right, so let's see this file, login data.xls. So this is my login data.xls file, so which contains some data, username and password and expected data. So these things are manually created, and some of them are valid, some of them are invalid. So this is a test data file. So we need to keep this file inside our test data folder. So let me just copy this. So how to copy this? It's very simple. And what we can do is, let me just close this for now. And wherever your Excel file is present, just copy this, select this, Control C, and then select your test data folder, Control V. So this will automatically copy. Just say OK. Now it is copied here. So login data.xls file is copied here. Okay, so the icon we cannot see directly, but this file is currently present in test data. Perfectly fine. So after that, the next step is we have to create utility file. So we already created this utility file earlier. So the same Excel utility file, we can use it here. So I'm also copying the same file again here, which is utility file, that is Excel utils.py. So that should be part of utilities package. So here I'm copying, and go here, and you can see this. We have to import Openpyxl, because if you want to work with Excel file, we need to install this Openpyxl module. So we have already done at the beginning. So get row count, get column count, read data, write data. So these are the reusable methods created, reusable functions which are created inside Excel utils.py module. And we can access these method functions by using Excel utils class itself, so that it will return the required data. So the first method will return the row count, column count, and it will read the data from Excel, and it will write the data into Excel. So I have multiple methods available. So this utility file we have to use in our test case. So in the next step, we'll see how we can create a data-driven test case. So now we need to create the data-driven test case. So let's try to create a new data-driven test case. Go back to the PyCharm, and we already automated test login, right? And I use same thing, and I'll do slight modifications. So just we make one more copy of it, then say test login underscore DDT, data-driven testing. So I'll slightly modify the same test. See that what are the modifications we have to do. Here I'll change the test case ID, test 002 dot underscore, and I'll say DDT underscore login. So data-driven test case is different, and normal login test with valid credentials are different. And almost everything is same. We need to slightly modify. So we need base URL, so which will get it from the application, which is get it from the read config utility file and ini file. And additionally, we have to specify the path variable. So where exactly our test data file is present. So dot slash slash representing our current project, and in which in the test data folder, my test data file is present. So here I'll say test data, which is my folder name. And inside this, my test data file is login data. Login data.xlsx. Right, so this is my path variable, and here I don't need a username and password then, because we are going to do data driven testing. So the data should come from XLS file, not from the ini file. So I can just remove these two for now. And logger, as usual, it should be there, and everything is same almost. So here I can just remove this method. I don't need, I need only login part. So I can just have this test login, and I can just rename it as _DDT. And this is also taking setup method, because the browser we will decide at the runtime, the same again. And here I can specify the test case ID. So what is the test case ID? This is my test case ID. So I can write some additional log, self.logger.info. And here I'll specify first time, whenever you're starting your test case, specify the ID of the test case, and that will be displayed in the log. Save it. So here's a test case name and verifying the login test, login DDT test. Okay, so I'll say DDT test. Now everything is same, setup and base URL. Okay, so here this will change something, guys. So here base URL, we got it, and this is also same. Again, we have to use same page object class. So once you created your login page object class, we can reuse this in multiple test cases. So previously I was used this in test data test login. Now I'm using the same page object class in test login DDT. So this is also same. So we'll get the username. So we'll identify the username, and we need to pass this username from the Excel file. So we need to get the data from Excel file. Right. So before that, what you have to do is, as soon as we created the driver LP object from the login page, we have to slightly change this code. But before passing this data here, we have to get the data from Excel file, right? So that we need to write here. So we already have Excel utils. So Excel utils is present inside the utilities folder or package, but our test case is present inside the test cases package. So both are different. So we need to import Excel utils. So that we have to do here. So here I'll say from utilities, import Excel utils, and then we can use this class directly by accessing methods. So Excel utils dot, so first I will get the number of rows in an Excel file. So Excel utils dot get row count. So this is a method we can access. Excel utils dot get row count. So this will give you row count, but we have to pass the location of your Excel file. Two parameters we need to pass: the path of the Excel file and name of the sheet. So here we have saved the path, so that we have to pass by using self keyword, comma, and in which sheet. In login data we have a sheet called sheet 1, so that also we have to pass sheet 1. And this command will return you the number of rows in a Excel file, and that I'm going to save in a variable called self.rows. Now I got the rows, and if you want to print, you can just print it here. I'll say print, and here I'll say number of rows in an Excel, and you can print that value. So comma self.rows. So I'm just printing the number of rows just for our information. Right, so then after getting the rows, which is little tricky, guys, we need to understand the logic carefully. So here, after we got the rows, so depends upon the number of rows, we need to repeat the loop, and inside the loop we need to do all these validations. Okay, so now keep this one side. So here I need to write a looping statement. Let us say for let me just take one variable r, which is representing the row in range, and first row is basically header part. I can just ignore it. From the second row I'm starting. So 2 comma, we already know the how many rows we have in the Excel. So this variable I'm using here. Copy this variable and specify it. And it will not take the last row by default. So we need to add +1 here, colon, and here we need to get the data from Excel utils. So Excel file, we need to get the data. So what is the first data? If I just open my Excel file, let's try to open my Excel file. Right, so this is my Excel file. So this is one column, second column, and third column. So if I give this combination, my test should pass. That's my expectation. And if I give this combination, my test should fail. That's my expectation. If it is fail, then my test case got passed. If I give this combination, it should fail. Okay, that's my expectation. So if it is fail, then my test is passed. Reverse, negative testing. Okay, so now go back, and here from the Excel utilities, Excel utilities dot read data. So we need to use method read data, and we need to read first. We need to pass the location of the Excel file by using self keyword, self dot path, comma, and in the single quotation specify the sheet name, that is sheet 1, comma, row number, which is R, and then column number, which is 1. So this will give you the first record, and save that in a variable called self.user. So now we got the username. Same thing, we need to get the password. So instead of self.user, I'll say self.password, and Excel read data, pass sheet 1 and column number 2. So which contains the password. And our expected value also we have to read. The expected value also we have to read, because we need to compare that. So here, same thing. And status dot expected, exp. Excel is read data, self dot path, same sheet, R and 3. So this will give you expected. So username, password, and expected. And now we need to pass the same data to the application. So we already created login page object here, which is page object class. So by using this self.lp, we should get set username method, which is coming from page object class. Set username, and whatever user we capture from Excel, that we have to pass it here. Okay, so here we have to pass. I can just remove these things. So we have passed username, and similarly self.lp.set password, and whatever password we capture from Excel, just pass this password. And then we need to click on the login. So self.lp.click login. So it will perform the login. And here I will wait for some time. So time.sleep, I'll wait for 5 seconds. And when I use time, we have to import the time also. So here, import time. Now it will wait for 5 seconds. So now I need to do the validation. So how to do the validation? Capture the title of the web page after successful login. So here, actual_title equal to self.driver.title. So which will give you title of the web page. And what is the expected title? Expected_title equal to our expected title is we have to keep here. So this is our expected title. Okay, so now we got the actual title, expected title. So now we need to do the validation. So this is another important validation. So what you have to do is here. So when I pass valid username and password, my application should successful. My login should successful. And we need to also check the title of the web page, and also we need to compare the result with expected value. So in expected value, pass or fail is there, right? So we need to compare with this data. So 2 validations we need. So sometimes what happens is, suppose when I pass valid details, here I'm expecting pass, but in the application runtime, it is not opening the dashboard page, right? So both are conflicting here. So we need to verify the title of the web page. At the same time, we need to check this is also expected also we need to check. Okay, so suppose if I take the failure case, so if I pass this data, my application should not successfully log in. That's my expectation there. That's the one verification. The other verification is here I'm expecting fail, so this should also match. Sometimes there will be conflict. So where you will see the conflict, if I pass this invalid data, application login is successful. Login is successful there, but you don't rely on the message there. But here we need to check this also. As per our expectation, it should fail. But application side, it is successfully login. That is a bug, right? So we should not depending on only the title. So we should also consider our expected data here. Because sometimes there are chances, even though if you provide valid data, it may not successful. And even though if you pass some invalid data, it may be successful. So there's some negative conditions also we need to verify. So we need to consider the title of the web page and also our expected message from the Excel file. So both we need to consider, then finally we have to decide whether passed or not. So when we will say login test is passed, login data driven test is passed, if all these combinations are successfully executed and all expected is matched, then we can say login data driven test is passed. Even one combination got failed as per my expectation, then the whole data driven test is got failed. So we need to write the logic in that way. So actual title, expected title, I got it. The conditions I'm applying here, just carefully listen. This is very, very important and very crucial point in data driven test. And here I'm saying if, first I'm verifying the title. So if actual title equal to the expected title, if both are same, actual title and expert title is same, and then I need to verify one more condition, guys. What is that condition? This expected pass or not. This is also I need to verify. So that value I already captured in the self.exp. So that also we need to verify. When we have to verify if the title is matches, here I'll put one condition. If self.exp also should pass. Two conditions are involved here. So here title should match, and also as per my expectation in Excel file, it should also pass. And then only I can say my test is got passed. So here I'll say self dot, and I will send some logger message to the log file. So I'll say logger.info, and here logger.info, and here I'll say test is passed. So some parser message and pass ending passed. And also immediately we need to click on the logout, so that we need to again come to the login page to get another input. So self.lp.click logout. And this method is also implemented as part of page object class. Right, so then we need to append the status. We need to create one more variable here. So it will be like this, guys. So here we have expected, right? So when we will say the data driven test is passed, all the combinations should exactly match. Then only we can say data driven test is passed. So we need to take one array variable like this. And suppose this is matching with us. This validation point is passed. Then here we need to update one pass. And second combination is fail. If it is fail means my test is got passed. And here if it is fail means my test is got passed. And if it is fail means my test case is passed. Negative testing. Because if I pass the invalid data, my test should fail. And I should get invalid title of the page. So if it is fail here, then my test case is passed. So all the results we need to capture into one array. And finally, we need to verify this array contains anything is failed, at least one is failed, then my whole test case got failed. So in this array, everything should see pass, and then only finally I can decide my data driven test case is passed. So this particular array we have to create in our test case. So here I will create. So before, okay, so before writing the looping statement itself, I'll create one array variable. So list variable, let's say list underscore status, and this is an empty list I'm creating. Okay, so I don't have any data in this. So list underscore status, and this is just a variable I created, equal to, I'll say 0. Oh, sorry, list underscore status is equal to empty list. So this is an empty list variable which we need to create. This is empty list variable. So this variable we will use later. So this empty list variable, we have to use it here. So the title is matching. My expected is also matching from Excel. So I'm just saying passed message, click on the logout, and immediately we need to update this list status is passed. So in the list status variable, I need to append one value called passed. So dot append, and here I'll say passed or pass. So this has to be done here. Okay, so this is one combination of validation. Suppose if my expected value is failed here, negative condition, else elif, or elif self.expected value is failed. See this is the conflict, guys. My title is matching, but as per my expectation from Excel, it is failed. So then what I should say? My test is got failed. So both should match here. Title and my expected message from Excel, both should match. Then only I will confirm this is passed, right? And then it should fail here. So title is matching, but whatever I am expecting from Excel, which is fail, both are conflict now. So here I need to fail my test case. So here what I should do is I should say my test case got failed. So here logger info is failed, click on the logout, but here title is matching means it is successfully logged in. But as per my expectation, it should also match with our expected value in Excel file here. So that's the reason I'm making it as pass and logout. But here, as per my expectation in Excel file, it is not matching. So, but still it is successfully logged in. So there is a conflict. It should not happen like this. So I'm just doing logout and updating my status fail in my common variable. So that is our list status. So this is a list variable, every time appending the status, pass or fail. So this is one combination. Suppose if the title is not matching with expected title, then we need to write one more combination. If my title is not matching with expected title, so here we need to write one more combination. For this if, this is elif, and for the first if, this is elif. If the actual title is not equal to expected title, then we need to check the Excel sheet status. So self.expect is pass, but here actual title is not matching with expected title, but as per Excel file, it is saying pass. Both are conflict. So if both are conflict, then I say failed. My test case is got failed. So I'm updating the list status is failed. And actual title is not equal to expected title. And in Excel sheet also I'm expecting fail. Both are same. So I'm saying pass. My test is passed. So here expected title not equal to actual title. And my Excel file, as per my Excel file, I'm also expecting fail because I'm passing some invalid data. So both are same here and here. So I'm saying my test is got passed. So even if you pass invalid data, if a login is not successful, that is our passed test case, passed scenario, right? You should not log in. If I pass invalid data, you should not log in. If it is login, that is a bug. So if you pass invalid data, login should not successful. So login should fail here. If I pass invalid data, title is not matching. That means login is not successful. And I'm also expecting failure. So if both are matching, then my test case got passed. So this is a negative test case. And then append the pass status to the list. Right? So this is how we need to write our looping statement. So inside the for loop, we need to keep everything. So this will perform the validation after completion of the looping statement at the end of the looping statement. So here we need to also do some final verification. So after completion of this looping statement, this particular variable, so which one, list underscore status variable, contains passed and failed. So whatever messages we are putting here, the same messages the list is also having. So when we will say the complete data driven test is passed, if my list contains all are passed, if my list variable contains all are passed, because every time I'm logging the pass message to the list here, fail message to the list, fail message to the list and pass message to the list. But at the end of this execution, if this list variable contains only passed, all of them passed, then only I can decide finally data-driven test is got passed. So for that, we need to write one more conditional statement. After coming out of this particular blocks, we need to write one more conditional block here. Here we need to write, what is that? If fail not in, see this negative condition, not in list underscore status, see this. So I'm putting the negative condition. In this list, we should not have fail. So if fail not in list, if fail is not in list, then I say DDT test case is passed. So here I'll say self.logger.info login DDT test is passed. So this is the final status. Okay, if the fail is not in the list, but if the list contains some failure, then data-driven test is got failed. So else, here I'll say self.logger.info login. I'll put some stars here and here. And same thing I'm putting here. So login data test is failed. And apart from this, here I will also close my browser. So I'll say self.driver.close. And I can make assertion also, asset true. So that my total data test will pass. And here also I'll do the same thing, driver.close, and I'll make my assertion false, so that my test case, the data-driven test case, the whole test case will got fail. And at the end of this test case, I will write some statement like this: self.logger.info, end of the login data-driven test, and completed our test case 2. So this is how we need to automate the login data-driven test case. So this time it will read all the data from Excel file, perform every combination of testing, and finally, if the list doesn't have any failures, based upon this condition, if the list doesn't have any failures, and then we will decide the login data-driven test is passed. This is very simple, guys. So let us say this is my list variable. So here, this is my pass. So title is matching, my expectation is also passed. Then I will update list variable is passed. And here my title is not matching, and I'm also expecting fail. In that case only I'll say this is pass. And here my title is not matching, I'm expecting fail, so then I'm saying pass. And here my title is not matching and expectation also fail, and then I need to say pass. If the list variable contains all the passes, then only finally I decide data-driven test is got passed. And even if you find any one of failure here, then my data-driven test is failed. So that's the reason I'm saying the list variable created here. And final status will be decided by this conditional statement. If the list status not having any fail, if fail is not found in this list, not in list, then I say data-driven test is passed, or finally I'm closing my browser. And even if you find any one failure in the list, then we say it is failed. So this is a final login data-driven test case. Now let us run this test case. So go to the terminal. Now we need to pass all the parameters, right? So let's go and run the test. We have done. So we have created test data in test data folder. Excelutis.py we created. Login data-driven test we have created under test cases. Now I need to run our test case. So let's run. So PyTest -v-s, and if you want to generate the report, I can also specify the report, and just like a previous command. So this command I'm directly running. So this time I'll say only one test case, so parallel testing is not required, so I can just remove this parameter. And report I want to generate, keep this parameter. Under which test case I'm going to run? I'm going to run test login DDT, right? So change the test case name, test underscore login underscore DDT. So that's my test case I'm going to run, and browser is Chrome browser. So as usual, same thing. When I run this code, then it will start executing for data-driven testing. So one item is collected. Now we can just observe. It will take the data from Excel and perform the login part. So this is the first input. Login is successful. Now it is trying to log out. Now, yeah, so something has got failed, guys. Let's see. And generated file. So only one combination it is verified. Okay, so let's see. We have done some mistake. I think for loop. So here are into self and password. We have done everything. This is also fine. And if this is matching, we are verifying this. Elif, we are verifying this. Okay, so elif if else condition, and this should come here, guys. Okay, here it should come. You can just put this here. So last validation, we have done mistake actually. So this should come here. Right, so fine. So let's execute one more time, clear, and then execute. This is my first input. So now you can see number of rows in Excel is 5. It is saying the in output in a terminal. Yeah, this is failure because I pass invalid data. And this is another failure for invalid data. So if I pass invalid data, it should not successful, right? If it is not successful, then my test case is passed. Right, so everything is got executed and say it is passed. One pass means this is talking about the whole data-driven test case, not for all the combinations. So all 5 test cases, 5 combinations are got passed. So that means all the combinations, whatever is specified in Excel file is exactly matching. So then my test case got passed. So this is how we need to perform the data-driven test case. Okay, so now we have automated 2 test cases so far. One is login test case with valid credentials. The other test case is login data driven test case with multiple sets of data. So this is how we need to automate login data driven test case. See this, for login data driven test case, we haven't do all these things. Whatever we have done from the beginning, we haven't do like this. And you can also see the report here. So let me refresh, open this report in my browser. Show in Explorer. No, open in browser. Yes. So click on show details. It will show you all the combinations. See, first combination, second, third, fourth, every combination is got passed. Fine. So this is how we can check the report for our test cases. All right. So with this, we have completed our data-driven test case. So till here, we have completed 90% of the framework. Okay. So we have done everything. We have configuration files, we have log files, we have page object classes, reports, screenshots, test cases, test data, utility files. Almost every folder, every package is filled here with a different type of files. So we have done completion of the framework. So now we need to create a new test cases. So adding a new test case is very, very simple now. So we no need to do all the things from the beginning now because we already done it everything. Right. So in the next session, I'll show you how to create a few more test cases, like how to search a customer by specifying email ID, by specifying the first name, last name, all these things. And then we will see some of small topics, like if you have a multiple test cases, we can group them. Right. So grouping will come after adding more number of test cases. So here I mentioned. So in the next session, I'll show you how to add more number of test cases. And then we'll see how to group the test cases, how to run the test cases using command prompt. and all these things we will see in the next session. Okay, so till here, till step number 9. So whatever we have done so far, so please complete this today before attending the next session. So next session, I'll show you how to automate the new test cases. So for one test case, we have done all these things and framework is created. So from the second test case, we have to just automate, just create only 2 files, guys. One is page object class we have to create. We have to create one test case. Only 2 files we have to create. So rest of the files are already ready in the framework. So we have to just reuse them. Okay. So that's all for today's session, guys. I'm just stopping here. So please watch this recorded video once again, once and twice till you understand the concept and then start practicing it. Okay. This is little tricky stuff. So even one round, one step, you cannot get it everything. You have to practice multiple times and then you will be familiar with all the stuff. I've clearly given all the steps step by step, and while practicing, do the same thing exactly in the same step by step format, and don't jump together. Okay, so please do all the stuff in step by step process, then you will be very clear on this. All right, so I'm stopping here. If you have any queries, you guys can ask, or else we can stop the session.